But ultimately, the question that I'll ask and that I would hope that you will ask yourselves is, how future-friendly is my content? If you believe sort of the rhetoric around the future is now or the future is already here, as William Gibson has said, just not evenly distributed, certainly mobile for many brands represents the future. Now that sounds like a kind of frankly a stupid statement, right? It's 2016. We've had smartphones in our pockets, in our hands for a very long time now. But the truth of the matter is, and I'm hoping this is not true of anybody here in this room, but for many companies, mobile remains an afterthought. My company was involved in a number of what I would call website rescues over the course of the past 12 months. And one of the major challenges we faced with these companies, and these were not small companies, they were fairly significant consumer packaged goods companies, multi-billion-dollar financial services companies. Not a single one of them had a mobile-friendly website, let alone a responsive website. This is an example, not a client, and frankly, not even a brand that I'm a fan or a frequenter of. But I just happened to find this because my daughter loves to drink Dunkin' Donuts coffee, and we were in the car going from point A to point B. I wasn't driving at the time, and she said, let's stop and get coffee. And I said, all right, let me go on the Dunkin' Donuts website. And that is an actual screenshot of the Dunkin' Donuts website as it looks at this very moment in time, desktop versus mobile, right? So clearly here's an example of a major brand, despite all of their resources and despite the fact that they have marketing strategists and I'm sure content strategists far smarter than me on their team or in their agencies who are still considering mobile to be, or acting as if mobile is an afterthought. I mean, you can actually pull that site up right now, and I'm not kidding, right? You pull it up right now, nobody can see this, but it is literally the exact same site, only much, much smaller, crammed onto the mobile screen. So still clearly, even though it's 2016, and we've all heard the rhetoric around mobile first, or in some cases mobile only, the truth of the matter is, for many brands, mobile remains an afterthought. Now, as you heard Karen, how many people were at Karen's keynote last night? Most of the people in the room. So I'm not going to go deep into responsive design. Clearly, responsive or adaptive design or MDOT mobile sites or mobile applications, these things are necessary but not sufficient. Clearly you need to provide a much better mobile experience, and you need to provide it in a way that works across all sorts of different device form factors. But it's not enough to simply restructure the content from a design standpoint. It's important to actually, and I'm surprised Karen didn't speak about this at all because I know that this is one of her key topics, is that responsivity or responsiveness is not just a design standard, it's a content standard as well. That the content needs to respond to the context in which that content will be consumed. So you need to begin to make some strategic decisions about what the mobile content experience actually is. When is it great to have essentially the same experience, the same content, presented in more or less the same way with maybe some design differences on a desktop, a laptop, a tablet, or a mobile phone? And when do you actually need to rethink what gets served? And I'm more of a front-end content strategist, not a back-end content strategist. So I don't tend to get hung up on the technologies, whether it's being served client-side or server-side. But the fact of the matter is, from a strategy standpoint, you need to make smart business decisions and establish the right business rules to give your customer the best experience possible on whatever device they're using to consume the content. So if you look at the left-hand side of the screen, you'll see sort of a reconfigured version of two of the screenshots from the prior slide. So this is a brand called Coldies. They make a cold remedy that's available in drugstores and I'm sure online stores around the world. And what you're seeing there are two iterations of the exact same content. I think Karen also spoke about this idea that tables are popular in web design, but tables are one of the most problematic design elements when it comes to small factors like the iPhone or an Android phone, because at a certain point the table begins to degrade, right? The table either gets too small for you to consume the content in an easy, accessible way, or the table begins to reconfigure itself in a responsive layout and it becomes stacked. And what we learned as we were working on this particular site redesign was that there was a point in time where presenting a table that in this case compares the symptoms of colds, flus, and allergies, because many people, believe it or not, feel that those things kind of, like from a health standpoint, they feel kind of the same. I'm sneezing, I'm coughing, I'm feverish, I'm achy, my eyes are watering. They feel the same, but they're treated with different medications. Right? So just like any good consumer packaged goods company, you think about a brand like a Coldy's, there probably are 70 or 80 different versions of Coldy's that you can buy, depending on, based on the symptoms and, of course, any of like the secondary things like flavorings or whatever. You like orange better than you like cherry, for example. But anyway, one of the important features of the site was the ability to allow consumers to compare cold, flus, and allergies. When were consumers most likely to go to the website to understand the differences between cold, flus, and allergies and then make a choice or a decision about the right product choice? When they're standing in the aisle at CVS or Walgreens, looking at their mobile phone, trying to pick among the 70 or 80 different variants of Coldy's plus their competitors, right? So what we found was that if we gave them a teensy-tiny table or a stacked chart, it became incredibly difficult for them to quickly understand the information and make a decision based on that information. So here's a simple example, very, very simple example, where we made a choice, a business decision, that instead of presenting a well-designed, beautiful chart on an iPhone or an Android phone, we instead gave them short text descriptions that conveyed the same information without any of the sort of design load. This kind of thinking is important. It sounds simple, but so many companies, when they design experiences that have to work across devices, forget that there are certain types of content that don't work equally well across devices.